The views expressed by the host of this podcast are not opinion-based or for entertainment purposes. They are actually facts and truth, no matter if other people like it or not. It is the Detroit sports truth, and nothing can ever stop it from being correct. Hey there, Detroit sports fanatics, and welcome to episode 210 of the Detroit Sports Truth on Spreaker, the show that actually gets it right and reveals the truth instead of just being honest with lazy opinions. I'm Taylor Phillips. I'm live from my basement apartment office in the northern outskirts of McBain, Michigan. You can follow me on Twitter at DT2Phillips. And with me on Facebook Messenger audio from the state of Georgia, as always, is my co-host Ed Smith. You can follow Ed Smith on Twitter at EdSmith313 and add him on Facebook as Edward Lawrence Smith. He goes by Ed Smith, technically. Thanks so much for being on here with me. How are you?
Doing fine, Taylor. Just got finished wrapping up watching what I thought was a very good, not quite great, but still very good show of NXT TakeOver Dallas. That was a good appetizer leading up to the main course, which will be this Sunday's WrestleMania 32, live from Dallas, Texas, at Cowboy Stadium. But, you know, there's a bunch of other things that happened here tonight regarding in and evolving around the sports world. Definitely on the hard floor, we saw the Celtics pick up an upset victory over the Warriors, and we saw Cavaliers edge out the Hawks in thrilling overtime battle. But let's get right to what meat potatoes are. Before we even get to the hard floor, before we even get to the Pistons, I think it would be quite apropos, since this Monday officially will be the start of baseball season. I think it would be quite fitting if we start tonight by previewing what the entire 2016 season will look like for our Detroit Tigers.
The baseball regular season starts Tuesday for the Tigers, but probably Monday in general, I think.
I mean, you know, some instances, I think Sunday night will be the ESPN, I think, is going to have a Sunday night baseball matchup to kick off their season, so to speak. They've done that now for the past 2 years.
Right. So, we're going to go ahead and start with Tigers. Then we got Wings, Pistons, Lions, and college hoops, including Denzel Valentine winning an award, a big award rather, I might add, and a couple roster moves on the other side of college basketball, the mitten. But we now present to you the 2016 season preview for your Detroit Tigers, our Detroit Tigers actually, too.
That one is long gone.
Last year, the Tigers' offense had 689 runs total, 660 RBIs, 151 home runs, which is 18th in the league, a 270 batting average, which is first in the majors, obviously, 328 on-base percentage, second in the league, a 420 slugging percentage, which is 10th, and finally a 748 on-base plus slugging percentage, OPS, which is third place. Now, we've been trying to figure out the total batting average on balls hit in play, but we'll get for the entire team. But we'll get to that later. The pitching and defense, not quite as good. Their ERA was way up last season, especially from the starting pitching, and most of all, the bullpen, the troubled bullpen, the then troubled bullpen. But also We have defensive metrics and statistics to survey as well. So Ed, have you any extra research on all this?
Basically, from what you gathered, they were, in terms of overall, you branch out overall, they were one of the top performing offensive teams with their batting average, slugging percentage, and whatnot. In terms of batting average on balls in play, found out through key variables that Miguel Cabrera and J.D. Martinez, of course, were the leading, the top go-getters in that regard. Cabrera was like a 384 on batting average on balls in play, which is quite astonishing. J.D. Martinez, 339, but a very, very rough number for Victor Martinez. He has a career, I think you said his career number of that stat was, 311, 313. And this past season, he had a 253, I believe, or 256. It was one of those numbers, but still far, far, far below his usual output, and it was quite a testament, so to speak, on how much Victor really struggled in 2015 compared to the runner-up MVP performance he had in 2014. So if that's one key that's got to focus on in terms of the Tigers to get even better as a whole, it's got to start with one of their main batters, and that's Victor Martinez, first and foremost.
Right, because Victor Martinez had only a 311, 313, somewhere around there, batting average on balls hit in play. 253 last batting average. 313. Let me see. I'm getting tongue twisted here. 311. A career batting average on balls hit in play of 311. That's BABIP, batting average on balls hit in play. And last year he was 253 on balls hit in play. Not good. Which was the worst since his first year, 267, when he started in the majors with the Cleveland Indians at 267 in 2002. That was his lowest before 2015. Victor Martinez was out for the entire season in 2012, so he played 13 seasons in full in his career. And the 253 BABIP was the lowest of his career. His batting average total was 245 last year. Right now his career batting average is 302. His best batting average total was in 2009 with the Red Sox at 336. Second best 2014 with Detroit 335. Well, he played for two teams in 2009. First with the Cleveland Indians, 284, and then with the Red Sox, 336. So if we do a little math here, it's 620 divided by 2 is a 310 batting average total in 2009. So the 336 actually does not count as a full in a full season. So his best batting average in a full season was .335. His .336 batting average was only the best with only a single team in 1 year. But back to last year, his stats were terrible. Only 11 home runs in 2015.
A mere 64 RBIs as well.
Yes, 64. In 440 at-bats, 120 games played. Only 39 runs scored, 108 hits, 161 total bases, which is...
Had an OPB of 301, which is barely noticeable. OPS 0.67, very below average.
OPS of 667, yep.
Below average for his standards, I should say.
Yep, slugging percentage 366.
Oh. It's dreadful.
So we're gonna. So just in case you people are so if you people are listening right now, we're gonna do 2 segments of 5 questions, one for the Tigers and then one for the rest of the teams, and we will do the 5 questions for the Tigers before we even get to the rest of the teams. Period, at all. So Victor Martinez has 3 years left in his contract after his latest contract, 4 years, $68 million that Dave Dombrowski has signed VMart to. And all those statistics last year were because were mostly because Victor Martinez was getting too cocky and thus throwing verbal fireballs at the fans in front of the media, the mainstream media, saying the fans don't even know how to play the game. Or, I mean, the fans haven't played the game.
Very off-putting comments by Victor. He sounded very much like that idiot Joe Nathan.
That is true. So Victor had better clean up his act. No, not only at the plate, but he'd better back up his words too. He had better back up his arrogance and just prove it just start proving it at the plate again. We know how good he usually is.
He's a little humble pie, and just let his hitting do the talking for him. I think, like I said, it's going to be one key variable to see how this team will improve overall. Their batting was fine as is, even with Victor's struggles. So that lets you know how even better they could be. Should Martinez, Victor I'm talking about here, make the much-needed improvements.
Right. So moving on to Miguel Cabrera, he got injured last year, about July or August, and the Tigers' offense was missing him, but they still found a way to win some games, not too many of them though, but they still missed him. I think you might want to turn your vibrator off, Ed.
That did not sound right, unfortunately.
Yep.
I understand what you mean by that.
Yep, but they needed Miguel Cabrera back. He returned, and look where the Tigers were at. They were suddenly in last place heading into September, and they finished in last place in the American League Central Division.
Which is quite something to see, because after so many years of, in the words of some of their arrogant fans, of owning the Central, last October they sat at home owning the couch while a doormat of theirs, the Kansas City Royals and all teams, not only won the Central, they won the whole damn thing. They went back to the World Series, actually won it all. Something the Tigers are still yet to do since 1984, by the way.
Right, win the World Series. So moving on to the pitching here, the starting pitching was almost as troubling as the bullpen until Justin Verlander found himself again late in the season. Shane Green was out for the rest of the season with a big injury after he regressed. But this spring, compared to this spring, where he has pitched better in exhibition play this year, that he might be ready to pitch a lot better in this forthcoming regular season. Alfredo Simon wasn't a good pitcher at all. The Tigers must have let him go. He's not on the roster anymore, thankfully. So they went in and. So Al Avila took over as GM after Dave Dombrowski got fired in August because he was contemplating signing with the Toronto Blue Jays, but he's now the general manager of the Red Sox, who picked him up. Al Avila is who was once the assistant general manager of the Detroit Tigers, now is the head general manager of the Tigers. And he is focused on analytics and sabermetrics as well. There was a story that Justin Spiro broke out that the Tigers were going to hire Ron Gardenhire from Mike Ilitch's side of the story, but Al Avila decided to change that and keep Brad Ausmus because Al Avila saw something in Brad Ausmus's brain that nobody else could see, which is that Brad Ausmus has been a sabermetrics guy himself, and in his first 2 years, Brad Ausmus has been following Jim Leyland's lead instead of using his sabermetrics mind, which is what Al Avila wants Ausmus to do now, and to take the right advice. The same way Manny Acta managed the Cleveland Indians. Manny Acta is now the new third base coach of the Seattle Mariners, according to Jeff Moss on Twitter at Jeff Moss DSR. He quoted my question. Do the Tigers go after Manny Acta if Brad Ausmus does get fired at some point this year? He said absolutely not. Manny Acta already has a new job as the new third base coach of Seattle Mariners, which is unfortunate. Luckily, we still have Gabe Kapler.
Yeah, I mean, if there's still hope of wanting to get Acta, you'll probably have to wait until after the season. If and when Ausmus would be let go. Even if Ausmus were to be let go mid-season, I think they would still find someone to go interim and then start their search or actually hired their permanent replacement in the offseason.
Yeah, that's true. So Osmus was given his third and final year of his contract by Al Avila, because like I explained before, Al Avila knew that Brad Osmus was very smart at sabermetrics, and then Al Avila wanted Osmus to prove it this year.
It's basically this year will basically be a make or break year for Brad Osmus.
Right. So this year for Brad Osmus, it's put up or shut up. Back to the pitching here. The Tigers picked up Jordan Zimmerman and Kyle Pelfrey. Jordan Zimmerman was playing for the Nationals previously, and he was a pretty good pitcher, not only performance-wise but statistically as well. Kyle Pelfrey, we had plenty of doubt in Kyle Pelfrey before his red hot performance this spring training. Kyle Pelfrey has done well all of a sudden. And so is Shane Green. Like I mentioned before, Shane Green was pitching a shutout Thursday night against the Baltimore Orioles. The Tigers won in result 2-1. Apparently the Orioles got their only one run in either the 8th or the 9th inning.
Yeah, the way that Shane Green seems to be pitching in this spring training, as well as coupled with the latest news that we found out over the past couple of weeks regarding the health of Daniel Norris, Green will definitely be primed to possibly take that fifth starting spot. There's a little few question marks for this season. I mean, rather for the starting rotation, because remember they did have David Price, but they decided to let him go, or actually rather trade him as part of that fire sale at the deadline last year. So they'll be missing that, but they still have Justin Verlander, who I think is going to be showing more so the Verlander that we saw pre-2014, and for the first half of 2015. I think that Verlander we won't be seeing that much of. We're going to see the Verlander that decided to set his pitches up instead of trying to go fastball, strike them all out within the first few innings. No, you're going to see a much more controlled Verlander, pitch his way through situations, show us not exactly the MVP form from 2011, 2012.
Not quite.
But, yeah, because, he is a little bit older now. But I still see we're going to see a much more focused and controlled Verlander. And that would be one big key, too, to this team improving as a whole, because as good as the starting, as the offense could have been without Cabrera, the pitching overall was absolutely dreadful. Not just the bullpen, but even the starting rotation. Like I said, Verlander's inconsistencies in the first half of the year. We saw, Sanchez even. Simon was just garbage. And so on most nights, it seemed like the only consistent pitcher for the Tigers roster was David Price, and also as well as Joaquin Soria whenever he was brought in for a save on most occasions. But those two were dealt at the trade deadline. So they kind of had to start from scratch just a little bit in a certain sense with their pitching. But they do have Verlander still. They still have Sanchez. They brought in Jordan Zimmerman, which I think was, I guess you could say it was a bit of a top signing, so to speak.
Splash.
And what we saw for the potential of what Daniel Norris had last year, I think, that's going to take a time for him to get that back, because not only was he coming off his back stiffness now, remember he did announce he was going to do treatment for his thyroid cancer issue, which thankfully he took care of. So I think it's going to be a while before we see Norris reclaim his form, but it's nice to see Shane Green make his improvement. So again, a little bit more uneven balance, similar to what we saw last year with our starting rotation, but I do feel optimistic. The addition of Zimmerman, the hopeful expectation that Verlander will be showing much more of what we saw in the second half of last year, and Shane Greaves emergence, and potentially Daniel Norris's return to form when he recovers from injury. The only one that you have doubts on at the moment, the only one that you seem to have doubts at this moment is Sanchez, for obvious reasons.
Right, Jason. Yeah. Jason Beck made a weak excuse that it was that it was 87 degrees out in Lakeland, and that Sanchez gave up 3 runs in the second, but he pitched 3 scoreless innings, but then he gave up a run in the top of the 5th. But he was doing well other than the runs that he gave up. But I just don't. I just think Sanchez will take the 5th spot in the starting rotation, and Kyle Pelfrey should.
Well,
Kyle Pelfrey should be moved.
The amount of money they're paying him, he won't be the 5th starter. That'll either be Pelfrey or Green. I could see Sanchez being the number 3 after Verlander and Zimmerman, respectively.
Right, but Sanchez has got to stop giving up runs. I know it's only spring training, but preseason, like I said, it not just a theory, but it's the truth that preseason matters. It's a true notion in sports that preseason matters. Your performance will produce the level of your performance will produce statistics, no matter what sport you play, no matter what level of sport you play in. The statistics will be there for you as long as you perform the way you need to. And if you don't, then they won't be there. Even if they don't count, they still matter. And Anibal Sanchez's performance was, I'd say, average. Not too terrible, not too bad, but not too great either. Not too good. I'd say average. But except
disappointing considering the amount of money they're paying him. Same thing about that I argue with Victor Martinez.
Right. And let's go to the situation in left field. The Tigers were not able to bring back Yoenis Cespedes, so that they brought in Justin Upton. They signed him to a big deal. He has a career WAR of 4.4, according to Pat Caputo, who once wrote a great article about the acquisition of Justin Upton. Just about the only article that Caputo has written thus far in 2016. Upton not only has the defense, but he's got the bat as well.
Definitely so. I mean, you've seen what he has done throughout his tenure in his career. Most recently with Atlanta and with San Diego. A brief moment of time in Atlanta, he was with his brother BJ. So we know the kind of things that Upton can do. He's got good versatility, nice speed, and that's a guy you could put at the top of the lineup, right behind Kinsler, right ahead of Cabrera. He could be a good table setter to give good RBI opportunities for Cabrera and for JD Martinez for that regard as well.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And looking at center field, Cameron Maybin was supposed to platoon with Anthony Gose, but Cameron Maybin will not be ready for opening day because he's injured. But he still may be ready some other point early in the season. Anthony Gose is going to, but for now, Anthony Gose is going to have to do everything in center field by himself.
Yeah, so hopefully his arrogant attitude towards sabermetrics will come back to bite him in the butt on terms of his on-field play.
Yeah, his comment that defensive metrics in particular was a scam, quote unquote. Wrong.
Are you out of your mind?
Defensive metrics is a very valuable statistic. For example, let's see. Defense here. Fielding. There we go. They got double plays. They got putouts. Total chances. Got range factors, fielding percentage. Victor Martinez used to play first base and not just catcher. I'm just going to take him for example, but I'm going to take a look at Anthony Gose right about now and try to look up his defensive metrics here. Just to get on, not only to get on his nerves, but it's very important.
It's crucial.
Anthony Gose had a fielding percentage of .989 in 2015 with the Tigers. He has a career fielding percentage of .987 and .986. 987 in total in all outfield positions, 986 in right field, a 986 fielding percentage in center field, and a 1,000 fielding percentage in left field. Those are really damn good. Those fielding percentages are really damn good.
So to ignore those or dismiss Mr. Scam was very ignorant on his part.
Those are very valuable. Those fielding percentage statistics, those are very valuable to this Tigers organization. They can use that all year long. He just has to keep it up. His range factor in 2015 was .260. His MLB career in all outfield, 225. MLB career range factor in all outfield positions, 225. His MLB career range factor in right field, 173. Center field, 239. Left field, however, 129.
So
Double
those numbers show how below average Gose is.
Yep. What was the average again? I couldn't hear you.
No, I said those numbers showcase how those splits rather showcase how below average he is. And that speaks even more to his arrogance and delusion.
Yeah, that's been the problem there. That's what we just hit on the head right there. That's what he needs to improve on, his range factor, meaning his arm accuracy and whatnot. That's what they meant. He is a he had 352 total putouts in 2015 with the Tigers, which is a bunch. 726 career putouts in all outfield positions, 69 in right field, 608 in center field, and 49 in left field. Taking a look at errors, 4 errors in 4 errors last year, 4 errors and a total of 8 errors. Oh, wait a minute. 2015. Yeah, 4 errors in 2013 total, all of them in center field. None in left field, none in right field, but all of them were in center field. That has been the career worst, and he had tied it in 2015. But Anthony Gose is still young. He's had 4 seasons in the majors, the first 3 of them with the Toronto Blue Jays. He's had a career amount of assists of 12 in all outfield positions, 8 of them in center field. 9 errors in center field total in his career. Total chances, 360 in 2015, 748 career total in all outfield positions, 625 in his career in center field. Putouts. Yeah, I mentioned that already. So that's it.
Yeah. It sums up that Ghost is, at the moment, he's below average, but he, like you mentioned, he's still young, so hopefully he uses, over time, he can develop and become an adequate fielder in that regard for his defensive measure and his skills.
Yep. So, to sum it all up here, to be that arrogant with that defensive metrics is a scam comment toward the media while he's only 4 years into the majors is quite rare, because young players usually don't get that arrogant like he did at that moment right there. That's just a rare moment that Ghost got a little bit out of line, or somewhat out of line, rather.
It was definitely off-putting.
So right field, we already have J.D. Martinez. He's been red hot again in the spring. He hit 3 home runs against the Yankees on Friday. Friday. Thursday night, rather. Wednesday was the Orioles game. My apologies for getting mixed up. But either that or Tuesday. Either way, Tigers in the Yankee game won 10-6. J.D. Martinez, three home runs. He's proving that he's ready. If the rest of you listeners want to look up his statistics proving how good he really is, go for it. Tigers.com. Look up the 40-man roster. Find him. Hey, just be impressed.
Yeah, basically what it means is, in terms of going through breaking down position by position, player by player, we're basically set at the corner spot. We needed that corner outfielder that can give you, some good offensive output. Found that in Justin Upton. Obviously, we have what we have in J.D. Martinez. Really, just the wild card will be how Anthony Ghost does in center field, especially now with Maben going through his injury trouble at the moment. But the defense should be slightly better in the outfield compared to last year. Infield, I think Cabrera has become, over time, a very quite adequate above-average average first baseman. Not Gold Glove level per se, but still very good for a man his size at that spot. You got Kinsler at second base. Whenever he's healthy, Jose Iglesias, you've seen, what type of a defensive wizard he can be at shortstop. Nick Castellanos at third. On paper, by looking around at the face set spots, it's a much, much better defensive team compared to when Prince Fielder was here in 2012 and 2013. Yeah, Fielder gave you the offensive pop, but it led to a very, very leaky infield defense. It was all for naught because what Prince couldn't produce where it mattered most in the playoffs. So thankfully, that's when Dombrowski was able to find a sucker, i.e. the Texas Rangers, that was willing to take on that mammoth contract. So, but back on point to the topic here, we're set at the corners here in the outfield. Our infield set up very nicely as well. Down this lineup, I'd say, with Ghost, he has good speed. In my view, if he gets on base, he can give you a good opportunity on the base pass, get himself easily in the scoring position. And and since he's low enough in the lineup, that can put you right there at a spot where your table setters at the top of the lineup, Kinsler, Upton, leading into your big boys, your heart of the lineup, Cabrera and Martinez. Pick your poison, Victor or JD. That could help again drive up the run intake in terms of runs scored for Upton, but not just for Ghost, but for the team as a whole. Iglesias, he has great speed as well. He showcased very good improvement in his hitting last year, which really showed more consistency of what he did during his time in Boston. He had a bit of a struggle, during his first foray, midway through the 2013 season, I believe, when he was traded to Detroit. Really showcased in the postseason. But since then, he's developed, he's evolved. He's still somewhat of I guess you could say, a slap ball hitter. He'll hit mostly singles, but he's got great speed. And when he's on base, it's a joy to watch. But he really improved overall his hitting. He improved his batting average, got more hits this year. Was one of the more consistent batters of the lineup, short of saying a Cabrera or JD Martinez, believe it or not. So hopefully you see more of that continue in 2016 for Iggy.
And Jose Iglesias is also known for his defensive skills, his phenomenality at shortstop. We'll look for him to contribute more defensively for the Tigers in the middle infield alongside Ian Kinsler. And then, of course, at third base, you got Nick Castellanos having no backup at all because the Tigers recently released Casey McGee, but then they signed him to a minor league contract along with pitcher Bobby Parnell. Apparently, there just wasn't enough room for McGahee or Parnell for the 25-man roster, but number two, apparently they just didn't quite prove enough. So Nick Castellanos is probably on his own at third base.
Yeah, it's hopefully the Tigers can find a reliable, signed available body or whatever for depth purposes. I think Castellanos, we're just waiting on him to produce a little bit more with his bat. I think was one of the reasons why Dombrowski didn't want to trade him because they felt his bat was valuable or something to that degree. That's still more yet to be seen. So just let's see how far he goes in that regard.
Yeah, and Castellanos is still young though, but
That's why he's got all the time in the world to improve, with a lot more room to improve. And finally, behind the plate, the Tigers let Alex Avila go. He signed a 1-year deal with the White Sox. They pick up Jared Saltalamacchia to go along with the number one catcher, James McCann. And then this spring they traded Brian Holiday to the Texas Rangers for a third catcher in Bobby Wilson from the Texas Rangers, and pitcher Miles J, who apparently is going to be a minor league pitcher. But I think
they definitely made those moves. Which one of which was a little bit surprising. You would think, hey, Alex Avila happened to be the now new general manager's son, Al Avila. Maybe you would think, hey, he's got a spot, but I was just straight to the point. Listen, he basically, his son was not, Alex was not producing to an adequate level as we might have saw compared to his early seasons. And the decision was made, and they decided not to bring back Alex. And instead they went the route of staying with McCann. Obviously, they should have. As a guy that I think has good promises from an offensive standpoint, for sure, definitely. Now, and also they made moves with bringing in veteran backup, Jared Saltalamacchia. He's been with 5U teams, namely the Texas Rangers, and of course he was with the Boston Red Sox on 2013 when they won the World Series, which included, of course, that infamous ALCS choke by the Tigers. So Saltalamacchia, he's brought over essentially to be your backup, or rather split platoon on certain days to hit, hit right-handed or left-handed
split
hitters.
platoon, possibly.
Yeah.
And just back.
Or
more than just
yeah,
backup.
Where McCann will be your primary catcher as well. So that's what your men are looking like calling the signals. Going to be from behind the plate for this season.
Yeah, Saltalamacchia previously played with the Diamondbacks of Arizona last season. Didn't quite provide the statistics they expected, but I'm pretty sure Saltalamacchia will play somewhat better with the Tigers as a split platoon catcher alongside James McCann.
Mm-hmm.
So we've already covered the manager, the outfield, the offense, the infield, and the starting pitching and bullpen, and the catching. So that pretty much covers everything Tigers. So let's get to the 2016 Tigers season edition segment of 5 questions.
From Rip Taylor.
It's time for 5 questions with Taylor the Gator Phillips.
Question number 1. Have Francisco Rodriguez, Mark Lowe, and Justin Wilson done enough to prepare to save the Tigers' bullpen?
A bit of a tough question with the wording. I think the back end is secure with those signings, especially Lowe and Rodriguez. I guess the more so the question marks remaining is the middle end, how they can get to your set of guys. Looking at guys like Bruce Rondon, for instance, he is in Toledo in AAA.
Yep.
So maybe that means that lets me know that they still have plans on intending to use him this season. Hopefully, from a standpoint, he has not just controlled how he pitches or how he plays on the field, but also his emotions, his attitude, how he checks himself on the field too. I remember reading a couple articles on how he was being reprimanded from the team, by the team rather, for how they felt about his attitude in certain instances. So hopefully he's matured a little bit in that aspect, because you can have all firepower in the world, a good 100-mile-an-hour fastball, but if you don't have the proper pitching to control that pitch, as well as set up other pitches as well, set that pitch up by using other pitches as well, you're about as useless as you can be here.
Part. We forgot to cover that part. Yeah.
It'll be Brian Villarreal Part 2.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't have Brian. I don't think they have Brian Villarreal anymore.
Thank goodness, because he was wilder than a ride at the rodeo.
Right. They do have Blaine Hardy and Alex Wilson apparently in the middle core of the bullpen in the middle innings, and then of course they got Justin Wilson in the 7th inning, Mark Lowe in the 8th inning, and the new closer K-Rod Francisco Rodriguez in the 9th inning. You get
an experienced vet. I believe he was with wasn't he on the Angels in 2002 when they won the World Series? I want to say they were. I want to say he was.
Alex Wilson?
No, Francisco Rodriguez.
Yeah, he was with the Angels, and then he was with the Brewers.
Mm-hmm. That was his recent stint before landing in Detroit.
Tigers also have Angel Nesbitt in there. Michael Fulmer still probably in the bullpen. Buck Farmer is a possibility. Matt Boyd has been sent down. Logan Kensing not on the 40-man roster apparently in minor league camp.
I think temporarily, when he recovers from his health issues, you could see Daniel Norris there as he works his way back up to potentially getting back to the starting rotation. So, again, that'll be another good arm to add temporarily to the bullpen.
Right. That's what we touched on earlier, like a couple episodes earlier. They also got Jeff Farrell possibly in the bullpen, along with Drew Verhagen. That pretty much, and Kyle Ryan, a young Kyle Ryan right there, which pretty much covers the statistics, covers the bullpen. So
the next question yet?
Yep. Yeah, that covers the bullpen. Let's go to question number 2.
Next question.
Will Justin Verlander continue on a tear like he was at the end of last season?
I'll be optimistic and say yes. Like I already touched upon this before, you and I agreed on this. He won't be the 2011-2012 stud that we saw him, NAB MVP honors, All-Star appearances, Cy Young Award, had a good showing in the postseason. Great showing in the postseason, I would say, up until the World Series. 2013, I think it will be closer to the 2013 Verlander that had a good year. He really showcased that in the postseason. Like I said, what we saw in 2013 and in the second half of last year, I think we'll be seeing that type of Verlander. No, not the vintage JV. That was just completely untouchable, but still a pretty damn good pitcher.
Yeah, he's got plenty of other tricks up his sleeve, so watch out for them.
Next question.
Question number 3. Shane Green, Kyle Pelfrey, and Jordan Zimmerman have shined, but Anibal Sanchez is still not improving. What needs to happen?
I think with Sanchez, maybe he needs some type of observation, where it be private throwing sessions, or using your pitching coach to help guide him on how he should set up his output throughout the duration of the game, because he can't be getting smacked around like this. With the amount of money they're paying him, he should not be getting smacked around like he was a 5th starter. Okay, he's more than likely the 3rd starter, but he's getting hit around like he's the 5th starter. That shouldn't be happening.
Next question.
Number 4. How much will the Tigers' offense produce this season, and will it be enough?
I think, well, provided that Miguel Cabrera doesn't, sustain any long-term injury and goes under the DL again, with the added addition of Justin Upton, seeing JD Martinez continue his rise, and hopefully seeing Victor Martinez get back closer to the form that he was before his dreadful 2015 season. Based on those factors alone, I could see this team perform much better as a whole offensively. Hit quite a few more home runs, get a few more RBIs, score closer to maybe 700, over 700, probably closer to 800 runs as a whole. And like it was mentioned, they did have the overall leading best batting average of all 32 teams in the majors last year. So all 30 clubs, I should say, in the majors last year. And just, from a consistent standpoint of when you look at OPB, OBS, slugging percentage, one of the top consistent performing teams in that regard. So they keep that pace, as well as the four factors I mentioned before. I think we're going to see an even better Tigers offense in 2016.
Next question.
Finally, question number 5. How will Brad Ausmus and his decision-making affect the Tigers in 2016? Will he improve?
I'm worrisome. I think he's going to be more or less the same person that he was last year. I think there's a tweet that I saw the other day of him regarding, them not realizing he had already taken Victor Martinez out of a game in spring training before his spot came up. So stuff like that worries me, to let you know that he still isn't getting quite a grasp on how to effectively manage a game. And when you have a person like that as your manager, it hinders your team. It forces your team to perform, basically overachieve, outperform themselves, perform in spite of their manager, not because of their manager or for their manager, in spite of them. You saw that bit of that problem with Jim Leland in certain instances, but it wasn't quite as noticeable because it was what the team was winning 90-plus games, winning division titles, and making deep playoff runs. So, but it was quite noticeable with Ausmus. So, you hope he improves on that, but I'm still expecting the same. And if that's the case, I'm already looking forward to. I can't say looking forward to the team missing the playoffs, but I'm hoping it leads to something where eventually Brad Ausmus is let go, because I still don't have faith of him being the manager for this team. I just don't. The way he's performed, he hasn't shown it to me. So why should I continue to put my faith in him? Just can't trust that.
Same here. Follow-up question here. When do you think Brad Ausmus will be fired, and who do you think may replace him? Possibly Gabe Kapler?
Yeah, it's looking like maybe if they fire him mid-season, Kapler would be the replacement. If they fired him after the season, then I would still be holding out hope for Manny Acta and hope, they don't still go with Mike Ilitch's gut instinct, which was to go after Rod Gardenhire. I think that would be a terrible choice. So I'll be holding my hopes up for Manny Acta. I guess I'm in the same boat as Jeff Moss. Still hoping for Manny Acta, but more likely it won't happen. But still, you never know.
Right. The slight chance we'll have to take. Yeah, Mike Ilitch has to let Al Avila be the general manager and make the decision and make the right decisions around this organization, in and around this organization, with the roster and the dugout and the clubhouse. So that has been your 2016 Tigers season preview from us truly at the Detroit Sports Truth on Spreaker. Now we transition to other Detroit sports and start with the Red Wings. The Red Wings were playing the Minnesota Wild Friday night, and they won 3-2, just barely. Dylan Larkin appeared to be awarded with the first goal, although Riley Shahan got it. Nicholas Cronwall picked up an assist. second goal, Tomas Tatar picked up. And then Jonas Brodiak got the Minnesota Wild on the board. Both Tatar's and Brodiak's goal came in the second period. Larkin's goal came in the first period. And then the Red Wings went up 3-1 early in the third period. Riley Sheahan got that goal. He finished with a goal and assist. But then the Wild cut it to 3-2. Just about 10.5 to go. Michael Granlund at 9:43. Henrik Zetterberg picked up the other assists on Dylan Larkin's power play goal. Gustav Nyquist finished with 2 assists. Riley Sheahan with a goal and assist. He wasn't awarded a star, obviously. Zach Parise was awarded the 3rd star. Tomas Tatar only finished with 1 goal, and he ended up with a 2nd star. The media is getting the entire 3 stars all mixed up here. They're idiots! They continue to be idiots with the 3 stars of the game!
Well, unfortunate.
Those pieces of crap. I still don't understand why they continue to be inept with the 3 stars of the game. They don't do any freaking homework. Or much, if not none. But my 3 stars of the game, I would pick a tie between Ryan Suter and Zach Parise. I would pick Gustav Nyquist as the 2nd star, and then I would pick Riley Sheahan as my 1st star.
Yeah. I think Larkin deserves an honorable mention, but there's no trouble, no issue with that list.
Right, Dylan Larkin only finished with 1 goal. That's it. So did Tomas Tatar. If you were gonna award Larkin with an honorable mention or a 4th star, I would put him in a tie with Tomas Tatar for the 4th star. Yep. But Jimmy Howard Yeah, go ahead.
You were talking about Howard. So
yeah, Jimmy Howard started in net, stopped 20 of 22. Devin Dubnyk stopped 26 of 29 in a losing effort. The Red Wings were 1 for 2 on the power play. It's 50%. That's not bad. They were red hot.
A bit of a sample size was only two chances throughout the whole entire game. So
right, but
Howard
just
did look good.
It did add up,
good, as you mentioned.
It did add up to the power play statistics in Montreal in the 4-3 regulation loss of the Canadiens on Tuesday. In the second of back-to-back games, the first one being home against Buffalo, but in Montreal, the power play unit scored 3 goals against the Canadiens, all of them in the second period. Mantha scored 1 of them.
So in that instance, it does show how their power play does continue to improve. That's 4 goals, now in their last 2 games?
Yeah, 4 power play goals in the last 2 games. It's been red hot, totally.
Yeah,
if they want to make the playoffs, they just need to keep up that power play.
Yeah, that'll be one key. And speaking of the playoff stats, going to the standings, they were 1 point behind. Basically, they were tied. They are tied with the Flyers for that second wildcard spot, but Philly owns the tiebreaker. So essentially, they're on the outside looking in. But they seem to be closer to maybe overtaking that 3rd spot within their division.
Even closer.
On the point. You know,
just
they
one.
seem to
both the Flyers and Red Wings are just 1 point behind the Boston Bruins for those seventh and eighth playoff spots.
And I was going to mention the fact that the Bruins they found a way on back and forth struggle to pull one out against the St. Louis Blues by winning 6-5. So the Red Wings still remain.
I saw that on the scoreboard. Yep.
They still remain a mere 1 point behind Boston.
Yep, both the Flyers and Red Wings do. The Flyers own the tiebreaker as we know it still. Not only with the amount of not only by the amount of regulation losses, but by the goal differential. The Flyers have 25 regulation losses. The Red Wings 28. The Flyers' goal differential just -2 after that 2-1 shootout win against the Washington Capitals, and the Red Wings -13 down to -13. Boston Bruins +15. Only 8 overtime losses, 29 regulation losses, 41 wins. The Red Wings play back-to-back games again. They're in Toronto on Saturday against Mike Babcock's Maple Leafs, and then they have.
Babs.
Yep, I knew that would come. And then the Wings have 3 days rest before playing back-to-back yet again, home against Philadelphia on Wednesday Night Rivalry on NBCSN at 8, and then they're in Boston on Thursday at 7 with the Bruins. So 2 very important games coming up.
Yeah, especially that Bruins matchup.
And then
that might effectively decide who will stay, basically go into the playoffs as that third team out of the Atlantic Division, and who will go home on the outside looking at that second wildcard spot.
Yeah. As much of a shame as it is when the Wings are trying to make the playoffs, we still want them to miss the playoffs just to end that irrelevant playoff streak.
And hopefully get Mike Ken Holland out of town.
Yeah.
Because really, that's what's been holding this team back.
Yeah, absolutely. His poison pill contracts of Nicholas Cronwall and Jonathan Ericsson, which Prashant Iyer labeled like a few weeks ago, or a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, sometime around there. His recent re-signing of Justin Ablocator to like a 3-year contract extension. My God. And Ablocator is already having a rough year.
Yeah, he's so far showing that not quite living up to that contract per se, which they really should have thought of beforehand before giving the freaking money.
Yeah, and Jeff Blashill, for example, keeps sitting Brendan Smith, who even though all defensemen have played poorly in their own zone, has been the best defensive player statistically and performance-wise as well.
Definitely a better defenseman than say Cronwall or Ericsson.
Yeah, I would give Jonathan Ericsson the healthy scratch and put Brendan Smith out in there for him. Something must have happened off ice between Smith and Blashill, but it's not a league suspension. It's probably a team suspension. Apparently, someone like Mihir Bhatnagar has got to investigate either him or Justin Spiro. Remember when we talked about Spiro's DSR source that the entire locker room Red Wings locker room has been turning on Jeff Blashill. They're starting not to trust him because he's becoming more of the Mike Babcock 2.0 and stuff like that.
Yeah, so that makes you wonder if that's one of the reasons why they are turning on Blashill, because they know what Smith brings to the table as compared to, say, Eriksson.
Yeah, because Eriksson really, really sucked in Montreal. He was fumbling and not corralling passes consistently, and just doing everything terribly bad, terribly wrong. Just
everything that you could think of that a defenseman should not do, he did.
Right, and everything that he should have done good, he did not do at all, including checking Max Pacioretty, who deflected in the first Canadiens goal on Tuesday, the first goal of the game. Even if Eriksson had to draw a penalty, a good one, I may add.
That's akin to, instead of just giving off a good foul, you're giving up an easy basket as is.
Yeah. So, yep. This is what's killing the entire roster, the entire franchise. This is all what's making this playoff streak a lot less relevant to the Stanley Cup play, to the four Stanley Cup the four Stanley Cups that the Red Wings have won in our lifetime, 97, 98, 02, and 08. That was all broken by the 09 loss, and since then, all of this appeared, and look where we are now.
Yep.
We're dwindling.
In the conference final since 09.
Right.
Haven't been out of the second round, most we've been to, right, the second round in, 2010, 2011, 2012?
2012, they were out the first round. They were out in 2010, 2011, and 2013, and they were out in the first round 2012, 2014, and 2015.
Huh.
So if you look at the graph chart, the first 4 years they've been knocked out of the second round 3 times. Then they crossfade into getting knocked out in the first round 3 times in the last 4 of the 6 seasons since 09. Like I've explained for like almost 10 times to my audience.
Obviously.
And I'm going to keep tormenting them until they understand when they see that the Wings miss the playoffs to add on, then everything will be different.
Must be. For the sake of this franchise going forward for the next 5 to 10 years, I think it will be much better and beneficial long term if they, miss the playoffs this year. It'll finally get some fans to open their damn eyes.
Yes, that's right. So with all that, speaking of which, we transition to basketball.
Left sideline 3, and he answers.
The Pistons losing 98-89. Pistons score 88 points against the Thunder and win. Then they score 89 points and lose to the Dallas Mavericks, who have now won 3 straight, improved to 38-38, still in 7th place. 2 games in a tie for 7th place again with the Utah Jazz at 38-38. 30 games back of the Warriors, who just lost. 2 games back of 6th place in the Portland Trailblazers, who are 40-36. They've won 3 in a row, but Dallas. But at least some of Dallas's shots were wide open, especially from 3-point range. But not quite most of them as I've seen it. But the three. But most
There
shots
wasn't really a
overall were
three-point shot.
contested. What?
Yeah, and it really the 3-point shot didn't really kill them this time. They only gave up 8 of 24 at a 33% percentage for Dallas. Actually, Detroit, I should say, with Dallas making them. Detroit actually outdid them at 13 out of 33.
Yet they gave up 98 points. Still less than 100, but pretty close to it.
Well, that was due to the fact that, for one instance, of all people, J.J. Barea scored 29 points on them. 19 in the first half, I believe. J.J. freaking Barea. So when you got
where the hell was
the
defense on him?
I mean, he was out there acting like it was freaking 2011, and he was making shots over LeBron in the Heat again in the finals. It was crazy to see him, of all teams, outperform, basically, aside from Marcus Morris, outperform everyone else on the floor. 29 points to go along with his 3 assists and whatnot, but still, when you let a guy like that outwork you, you deserve to lose that game. And another key difference, they were tight throughout, except for one quarter, the second. They let him get away on a 13-0, 15-0 run, and that was just, as much as they tried to keep coming back, at one point they cut it to 2 and 3 to get close to single digits as much as possible. The closest they got in the fourth quarter they were down 86. They cut to 86-83. But after that, Dallas just took over. They pulled away again, due largely to J.J. Barea again. Marcus Morris is probably the most consistent Piston out there. He had 31 points to go along with 12 rebounds, a double-double for him. Another double-double for Andre Drummond with his with his 12 points, 17 rebounds. But once again, to Hackett Drummond coming into play, he was 2 of 10 from the line. That didn't have matters either. Everyone else was okay. Reggie Jackson 4 of 4, KCP 6 of 6, Harrison Morris finding to be 2 of 4, but 2 and 10 as one ugly mark that stands out. In terms of free points given away, that really could have helped out Detroit in terms of possibly stealing this one, or rather winning this one.
Right, and want to know what else is another dud? Aaron Baines still not rebounding consistently. I don't know how he might not have gotten much playing time in that game, but he's still just.
He got 12 minutes, but still, he even though he didn't get as much time, I still say that's what your typical average minutes per play for a second unit player. Went 0 for 3 from the field, and had only 2 rebounds.
Just
very
2.
Weak, very disappointing from the 21-point output that he had against the Kings a few games back. So I don't know what the hell is up with him in that regard.
That's pathetic.
He freaking sucks.
Very disappointing.
Oh man, just another example of why Aaron Baines is was a bad free agency acquisition last summer.
Well, he seemed to be useful when he was with the Spurs, and like I said, he showcased that in spurts. And whether it was against his former team or, like I said, against the Kings, that 21-point output was 7 rebounds.
That was it.
So
I think
Baines is anything more than inconsistent. He's consistently inconsistent, and that's unfortunate to say.
Man, oh man, it's just not working out well between Baines and the Pistons. It just isn't. He better get his act together, otherwise he's just no good to the Pistons at all. Then they need to let him go this upcoming off season.
Yeah, I mean, at least this one wasn't a total loss per se, because no matter what, they were still going to be in the 7th spot. It's just looking more unlikely, unless they really go on a tear these last few games. They'll either be a 7th seed or an 8th seed. Tonight's loss, it puts them now just, again, back to a mere half game ahead of Indiana for that 8th and final spot, and by their regard, they're a full game ahead of the Bulls. They're still trying to find their way to get in for that 8th spot. So that makes tomorrow night's game against the Bulls a very, very crucial one you could essentially put the nail to the Bulls' coffin by beating them, knocking them further back of Indiana, and keeping your pace, pardon the pun, ahead of Indiana, who will more than likely get an easy W against the very lowly 76ers. So to say tomorrow night's must-win against the Bulls is a must-win, quite an understatement.
Right, that game starts at 8. And tonight and Friday night's game wrapped up their historic 9-game homestand, which they finished 6-3, which is pretty good.
Still good. You wish they could have ended it better, but
a little bit better at least, like 7-2.
But they got 6 wins. They did beat a strong team in Oklahoma City Thunder, and really, when you look at it, all lost to 2 teams, Atlanta twice and once to the Mavericks. So basically, only 2 teams beat you this 9-game homestand. That's got to stand for something. It's not might be exactly what you wanted, but still an impressive showing. And they needed that to get themselves in the spot where they are right now this late in the season. They're now at 40 wins, someplace they haven't been in a long while. So if you just hope they keep it up from here.
Right, and then they go to Miami and Orlando next week before they return to the Palace. Season's running out on them too, but they just need to keep pace in the standings and stay in the playoff picture.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they do Tuesday night, national audience on TNT against the Heat. And then after that, it's back to business. I say they got an easy one against Orlando, somewhat easy one against Washington, and then it's home stretch time, and then they'll finish it up with another Tuesday nighter against the Heat. That'll be their home finale, and then the next night, Wednesday, they'll close out the regular season against LeBron James and the Cavaliers. Well, I expect to have the number 1 seed in the East wrapped up by then.
That is exactly true. Yep. I would have to imagine that. We're going to stick with basketball this time and transition to college basketball.
Valentine for the win!
Michigan State Spartans senior guard Denzel Valentine was earlier named the AP Player of the Year award, averaging 19.2 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, and 7.8 assists. Still all for naught since his team stalled defensively and bowed out to Middle Tennessee State 90-81 in the round of 64. This upcoming tournament, as devastating as fans hate to hear it, it's true. They have no choice but to admit it.
Yeah, but it doesn't take away the very fine season that the senior star for the Spartans had.
Right.
Where he played throughout the middle portion of the season, it certainly warranted the honor that was bestowed upon him. It makes me wonder, will this lead to him potentially getting the coveted Wooden Award for National Player of the Year? That's what Trey Burke got, and leading in his sophomore year, leading the Wolverines to a national title game. So, even though the postseason expectation didn't quite pan out for Michigan State, maybe he'll get the same type of accolade. That Valentine will get those same accolades that Burke got in 2013.
Yep, that's true. Yep. Wish the Pistons could have picked him up had Joe Dumars not been the GM.
Maybe things might have been different in terms of Trey's performance. So far, it has been quite, been lighting it up with the Utah Jazz. That I won't be surprised if he's either traded or released or signs with a different team in this offseason. But it is what it is. Hopefully, Trey is able to bounce back on his feet where he lands, and just because I think it's he's going to, whatever he does, he'll hopefully be able to get a chance to show more of the player that he was back in college.
Yep, that's true. hopefully. Speaking of Michigan,
For three, yes, sir.
Wolverines head coach John Beilein has officially removed the transfer restrictions of sophomore guard Ricky Doyle and senior guard Spike Albrecht. Earlier, they both made the decision individually to transfer, and now it has become official. It's just tragic to see them go.
It's sad to see them go, but if they feel, if they think that it's a better chance for them to get better playing time, have a better experience with their college time elsewhere, then so be it, especially in Spike's case, because he'll be the grad transfer option. So, and as opposed to what Pat Forte, initially reported, John Beilein has since backed off on, like you mentioned, the transfer limitations. So, Spike Albrecht can transfer anywhere he wants, whether it be even in conference even. He's an Indiana native. Maybe he would want to head home to the Hoosiers, or whether the team may be near and around his state. Ricky Doyle, the same thing, even though I think he has to sit out a year at least. But since Spike's, again, graduating senior, he'll have that grad transfer ability. Very exactly what, in reverse, what happened for the Wolverines when they got Jake Rudock from Iowa. So there's your comparison right there, which I think was one reason why I thought it was a bit silly for Beilein not to let Spike do the same thing. But thankfully, he's changed his mind on that.
Yep, that's understandable. And finally, our last topic.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions!
The Lions have signed offensive lineman Jeff Schwartz, and I think I don't remember where he was from previously, possibly the Jets, but they also re-signed. They also signed running back Stevan or Stephen, whichever, Ridley.
Stephen Ridley.
Stephen Ridley, thank you.
Ridley was with the Jets last year.
Yep, that's true. So, your analysis on Schwartz and Ridley?
Schwartz is added mainly, with them cutting ties with Manny Ramirez, they needed to find a replacement for him. And Schwartz, and the 1-year deal that he's getting, I guess it's a timetable test to see if he warrants another deal after this upcoming season. Ridley, same thing, similar to, because remember the Lions did part ways with Joy Bell earlier in this off season. So again, it'll be another aspect here. But Schwartz does have some veteran experience. He was with the Giants, I believe, last year. So, and according to Michael Rothstein on Twitter, Schwartz can play both guard or right tackle, and could give them a chance to upgrade the offensive line to a certain extent. That was one issue that once again plagued them in their season last year. So you hope that they find a way to improve on that, because Matthew Stafford can't do anything in leading this team to supposed promised land flat on his back. It's got to be upright as much as possible.
That's right. So, with with everything covered, let's do the original segment of 5 questions.
Yep. Ready to let him rip as always, Taylor.
Yep.
It's time for 5 questions with Taylor the Gator Phillips.
Question number 1, do the Red Wings still have a chance to miss the playoffs and end their irrelevant playoff streak, even though they're trying to make it?
Yes, they do, because if you have the Phillies knowing full well with the Wings that the Wings are hot on their tail. Thank you. The Flyers, knowing that Detroit's still hot on their tail, they're going to play with as much motivation as they possibly can. Same thing with Boston. So I think it'll take a very, very, because you would have thought the Wings would have gotten their break when the Penguins lost Evgeny Malkin for 6 to 8 weeks with his upper body injury, but they've strolled on. They've caught fire, so they're well within safe spot. So they don't even have to worry about a wild card and missing the playoffs now. They got 96 points now compared to other teams with 93, 91, or even 89. So the Penguins are set. And the Flyers, they're looking to follow suit, as is the Bruins. So, the chance is still as good as any that Detroit does miss the playoffs this year, finally.
Yeah, I've been waiting my whole life for that.
Next
Literally
question.
mine, too.
Yep. Question number 2, is the Pistons offense missing right now?
What, are they missing or are they missing right now?
Is the Pistons offense missing?
Yeah, you could say that a little bit. Andre Drummond needs to get involved more. Not to worry so much about the teams hacking him to the line. He needs to get in the pace, quick steps. Get to the rim, and move and improve from there. Not to mention the obvious lob opportunities that his guards will present to him. But it can't be just one player doing it on given night. It can't be, Marcus Morris this night, or Reggie Jackson this night, or, it's going to take a combined effort, like we saw the other night with Morris and Tobias Harris. You want to see that more from your backcourt with KCP and Reggie Jackson. Just a rotating group of players sharing the load and getting the whole team involved. That's what's missing. It can't all be on one guy, okay? We don't have a LeBron James or Kevin Durant here or Steph Curry that you can, you can put that person to carry the load for you. No, this team isn't built like that. It's built on a combined effort. So you're going to need that combined effort from as many people as possible in the starting five. Not just that, but also from the bench too. The Aaron Baineses and then even the Steve Blakes of the world.
Right, and not to mention the turnovers that the Pistons committed against the Dallas Mavericks. I saw so many of them that the Pistons don't even know what the Pistons offense didn't even know what to do. They didn't know whether to pass or to shoot, especially in the lane.
When you give up easy turnovers, those are as bad as possessions you can give out, short of dribbling the ball around for 24 seconds and then heaving up a prayer shot. Because obviously it cancels out your chance to score and then immediately starts the breakaway chance for a team to then in turn score points off of that, which would prove to be the difference in the game. Turnovers are a very, very key stat in all sports, obviously, but especially in basketball, because those turnovers can turn into instant points like that.
As Mike Valenti would say, make plays. I say make more plays consistently.
Next question.
Question number 3. Was the season still a fluke for the Michigan State Spartans with Denzel Valentine on their roster?
Well, it depends, but your definition of the term fluke. Because this was a very senior. I think this is the way they performed all year. I think many experts, were dumbfounded as fans were that they got ousted. They just had one bad game, and unfortunately, it was the absolute worst of times that you could have a bad game. In this one and done scenario, you don't get second, third, or fourth chances like you do, in the NBA where it's best of 7. No, it's a one and done. Survive and advance. Middle Tennessee State, they were on that day. Michigan State was not. That's simply all it takes, But they shouldn't be ashamed of their season. They won the Big Ten Conference title. They had a strong senior class, in my view. Denzel Valentine is racking up Player of the Year honors. So, no, it's not where they wanted to go, where they wanted to be. But there was some silver lining to look at for this season from MSU's standpoint.
See, you can't have a bad game in an NCAA in the NCAA tournament. You have to bring your A game, especially on defense. That's the name of the game. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's why I named it a fluke.
Yeah, they had a fluke game, but their season overall was not a fluke in my view.
No, not the season. Just that one game.
That I agree with.
Yeah. So, that was that part of the question was my mistake. But anyway, I was actually gonna ask, was that round of 64 game the fluke, not the season.
Yeah, because sure you give credit as much as possible, but there's no way in hell a 15 seed should be a 2 seed, especially a team that strong as Michigan State. So it's a little bit of late luck played in that outcome, I believe.
Yep, freaking embarrassing.
Next question.
Question number 4. Did Ricky Doyle, Spike Albrecht, and John Beilein do the right thing to complete the transfer?
Yeah, especially from Coach Beilein, because it's for Coach Beilein to be a man of high character and wanting to be as fair as possible. This is something that he needed to do. I think public opinion, as well as the Pat Ford article, really put him in a spot publicly where he couldn't go through with this limiting the transfer situation. So that was one aspect that needed to be done. And like I mentioned before, Michigan went through this same benefit when Jake Rudock was allowed to transfer as a graduate, and he came to them. So why can't Spike Albrecht do the same for a team like Indiana or any other team for that matter, any team that he wants to go to? Jake Rudock had that choice. Why can't Spike?
Next question.
Finally, question number 5. How will Jeff Schwartz and Stephen Ridley contribute to the Lions?
Schwartz, I think, will have a bigger impact because it's to improve that much maligned offensive line. Ridley, he's just there for serviceable carries. When Theo Riddick or Amir Abdullah need a rest or crucial down situations or certain packages, whatever you feel the need to have Ridley out there, that's where you use him. But it's not so much an impact that he'll contribute compared to what, say, a Jeff Schwartz might do for the Lions in their offensive line.
All right, those were both 5 question segments for this episode. And for all the listeners and fans out there, if you want to answer those questions for both segments in this episode, just replay the episode and listen in for them, and then answer them in the comment bank below this episode. Another reminder, please share this podcast on all social media networks, and thanks very much, and please keep all your content clean. That wraps up episode 210 of the Detroit Sports Truth. Ed, thanks so much again for your help. I'll talk to you sometime later this month for episode 211 instead of the forthcoming Tuesday, because you have an announcement to make to me and our listeners. Take it away.
Yeah, due to some recent issues, I won't say issues, but recent events that have come about regarding my personal life, nothing too serious, wanted to let everybody know, but due to the nature of those events, I will have to take an indefinite leave of absence from the show, as much as I would have loved to contribute, continue my contributions to Taylor and the show here, with this upcoming event, I should say. I just won't be able to focus all my time, effort, and energy into the show as I would normally. So due to that, I'll have to take an indefinite leave of absence from the Detroit Sports Truth on Spreaker. But rest assured, it won't be permanent. It's nothing like that. And like I said, this issue is nothing serious. There's no illness. Nobody's died in my family or whatever the case may be. It's just something that's come up and something that has to be handled internally. With my full and something that requires my full effort and concentration. So with that, I'll have to step aside from the show for a little while. But don't you fret, loyal viewers and listeners and audience members. I will be back. It's just a matter of when, not if.
Right, and possibly will be a full 3 weeks.
Looking like it.
Yep. And on that note, I believe Spreaker will, Spreaker's version of the Detroit Sports Truth will have to take a hiatus as well, since nobody from the Detroit Sports Rag group is free enough to fill in for Ed Smith. I can't do this podcast alone, so I'm gonna have to take a hiatus from the Spreaker version of the Detroit Sports Truth as well. But I will keep tabs on all Detroit sports on the Detroit Sports Truth on Blog Talk Radio, and alongside with me is Aubrey Dyer. I would probably ask him if he wants to fill in on for you on Spreaker until you get back. But
Yeah, got no problem, issue with that. Aubrey does a great job.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Aubrey, if you're listening out there, Ed just told you that. So, I'm praying for you, Ed. I'm praying for your family, and I will talk to you again sometime later this month.
Appreciate the concern. Appreciate the thoughts. Thank you so much. Things will go well. I assure that to you, Taylor, and I assure that to you, the listeners. Thank you all for your concern. But I will be back soon.
Yep. Just let us. Just give us the signal. Let us know whenever you're ready. 100% ready. I pass my condolences to you and your family. So get some rest easy, and I'll still message you some Detroit sports news if it comes when it comes up.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Taylor, and thank you for the opportunity that I've had so far. And thank you again for when I get back, so we can continue this great ride.
Yep, absolutely. Good night, Ed.
Take care, Taylor. Take care, listeners.
Yep. So we will miss Ed Smith for a little bit, but not permanently. He will be back. We wish him the best. At least we wish him the best for now and his family, but it's time to sign off here. For Ed Smith, I'm Taylor Phillips. If there's anything you fans want more of or less of on my podcast, please let us know. We will talk to you sometime if Aubrey fills in for episode 211, I think. Otherwise, I'll take a hiatus. TTFN, ta-ta for now.
Bon appétit.